Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar, and we are going to be discussing today the unconscious mind and how to release and liberate stored energy from the body and how that's going to impact our level of health and our level of well-being. So thanks for joining us. And so I wanted to start off with a quick story about a patient of mine who came to me about 2 months ago, and she had been suffering from post-traumatic stress, arthritis, low back problems, and low back pain. She had general spinal rigidity. She was feeling relatively unflexible. And so I consulted with her, and she decided that she wanted to create some goals. And the goals were that she wanted to feel more freedom in her body. She wanted to build trust in her body, which I thought were pretty great goals to start out with. And she wanted more clarity of mind. She didn't necessarily know how to get that or how to attain that, but that was her goal, is that she wanted the freedom of movement, the trust in her body, and the clarity of mind. And I said, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to start working with your body. And I'm going to describe to you today how we get to the results that I'm about to mention. But I just recently spoke with her, I think it was 2 days ago, and her changes were nothing short of amazing. But she said, I'm probably at about an 8 out of 10 on my freedom of movement and mobility. And she said, my trust in my body is really growing. I feel just more connected to my body and just to me in general. And she said, one of the most interesting things that I've noticed over the course of this 8 weeks was the fact that my thought patterns have changed. And she thought that was just really interesting, how we didn't really have any dialogue about changing her thought patterns, yet her thought patterns started to change when she was doing her body work and her spine work. So I'm going to today just talk to you about how we actually get those changes, why working with the body is wise, both to change something physiologically in your body, whether it be pain or distress or anxiety or whatever you're experiencing, but also if you're looking to change thought patterns, don't just limit yourself to the thinking realm, but also understand that your body is a vehicle to provide information to the brain and to thought patterns. And so you derive energy from the body, and it influences your thinking patterns. So that's what we're going to discuss today, and how this all works together. So I'm just going to pop off my chair here. And we're going to go to the whiteboard and just give you just a little reference that there is we can split your body up into the conscious, and then we'll split it, and the unconscious. So if you're willing to make some sort of change, if you're wanting to see something change within you, within your health, within the way that you think or the way that you move, then working with the unconscious patterns is essential. Now, the unconscious patterns, consider your body. Consider that you don't have to think about your heart beating. You don't have to think about breathing. You don't have to think about your digestion. You don't have to think about your muscles contracting per se. You don't have to think about your kidneys filtering. You don't have to think about those things. Those things are done automatic. They're done unconsciously, but yet there's an energy driving through the body that's coordinating this. We call this innate intelligence, but the fact is that there's an intelligence beyond your conscious control that's actually organizing these things inside your body. And that coordination also influences and gives information to the brain. And the brain then responds with a feedback to the body. So this is a feedback loop between the brain and the body. Now, what we did for her was that we helped her to connect in a different way to her body and to relate differently to her body than what she had been relating to. And we worked primarily in the unconscious system. I did very little coaching with her, very little instruction or information on anything. But what we wanted to do was to give her an experience in her body that would provide her an opportunity to experience something different in her mind. And it's pretty predictable when you work with now many visits, thousands and thousands of visits over the years, you get to see in someone when they're connecting with their body in a different way, instantly that thought patterns are going to change. So how do we do it? Well, there's basically three main ways in which your body or your unconscious stores information. So think of stress coming into your world or into your life. So you have stress that's coming into your unconscious, or I won't even say stress, but let's say information that's coming in from your environment is coming in. Now, your body, when it holds tension, perceives this information in varying ways. So, for example, if I'm stooped over in my posture and I'm rigid and contracted, the information that's coming into my system is generally going to be interpreted as half glass empty, in a perceived negative way, because I'm in a position that promotes thought patterns of lack or not enough. And so as the information comes in, it doesn't really have that many options, but for me to interpret my environment or my stressors or my interactions from that place. So a lack of confidence, a lack of energy, just a general lack of just inner resourcefulness. You're going to experience the world through how your body is shaped and positioned. This is part of your unconscious realm. So again, if you're looking to change your thinking patterns, it's imperative that you also alter the structure and movement and rhythm of your body. So as this information comes in, if it has to pass through a lot of tension, understand that the experiences, the tensions that were created from past events are being stored in your body, in your nervous system, in the tissues of the body, in the tissues of the spine, and that information coming in from your environment has to almost filter itself through that stuff and eventually make its way to the brain. Well, as it filters through all that content in your body, your brain will interpret that in a certain way, and oftentimes if the information has to go through a boatload of tension, the speed in which reality enters into your awareness is slowing down in a sense that it's got to go through more filters. And so reality from the way that you observe it starts to get distorted based on the tensions that are in the body. That's why the clearer your tissues, the less stress you hold and bind in the body, the clearer you do see reality, because the information coming in is truer getting to the brain and getting to your awareness than it is if you're distorted and there's a boatload of tensions in your system. And this can be on the level of subtle, where there's subtle tensions, and it can be level on gross in terms of large amounts of tension that are stored in your system that you're filtering and distorting reality with. So working with the body is essential because it clears some of the unconscious data, it clears some of the tensions, and allows for a clearer transmission of information coming from your environment to your brain so that you have awareness. Now, just remember, the information coming through your body, it's estimated that it's 500 milliseconds faster than your brain interprets it. That means that your body has already responded to your environment before your conscious awareness has even had an opportunity to be able to interpret it. That's why creating a clear structure, clear spine, clear body tissues is essential, because that information rapidly moves to the brain and you have more clarity of thought, which is what that woman was looking for as her third goal when she came to meet me. And that's why she started to meet her objectives, because she stayed with a program that allowed her to start to clear some of the tensions at a rapid pace, and she was able to see rapid results like that. Now, when your body stores stress, trauma, or information, when it stores it in the body, it does a couple of things. One is it limits your breathing capacity. it contracts the musculature just to make sure, again, if it's overwhelming information that's coming in, your body's going to go into protection mode. And so because it goes into protection mode, a few things happen is that it now decreases your breathing capacity and it decreases the movement. And the reason that it does that is because it helps to freeze your reality because it feels unsafe. So it goes into this freeze mode to protect you, but at the same time it's protecting you, which is a good short-term strategy. It doesn't realize that the long-term, you're decreasing the amount of movement, you're decreasing the flexibility, and you're decreasing the amount of breath and respiration that moves through the body. Well, that drastically limits the quality of your life. Now, what do we do then as this protection comes in and you've decreased your movement and you've decreased your breath? Well, what's the way to improve the quality of health, like this woman? What's the way that we do that? Well, we reverse it. We reverse it by doing two things. One, increasing your breath. Two, increasing the movement. Those are two antidotes to the protective mechanisms of the spine and the nervous system and the body tissues, is to reverse the process by actually looking at the breath and looking at the movement. Well, we utilize breathing exercises called the 12 stages of healing, introduced by Dr. Donnie Epstein. We utilize those, and somato-respiratory integration means body, respiration, integration, integrating the body and the respiration. We use 12 distinctive breathing exercises to help to liberate some of the stored unconscious stress from decrease in restricted movement and lowered breath. And we do it very gently and rhythmically to start to see improvements in basically the way that someone holds their body, carries their body, and moves their body. As you move along, you will first notice that your posture starts to improve as you unwind tension. But then the second thing that you notice, if you do the proper exercises, is that your rhythm of your body and your spine will start to improve. And as your rhythm improves in your body, that's where I notice the greatest changes in someone's mental well-being begin to happen. As your nervous system becomes more fluid and flexible and dynamic, it frees up some of those anchors and some of those long-standing bound tension patterns. Because someone can stand up straight and still have a rigid spine or a rigid body or tissues. But if you stand up straight and you have good rhythm in your body, it's like the rhythm of the body is reflective of the mind. And as that's rhythmic and flexible, then so too is the mind, rhythmic and flexible, and it's more adaptable to the environment. And what I noticed with her at about 2 to 3 weeks of care is that her spine and her body started to take on more of a rhythmic movement. Once I saw that happen, I knew she was on her way in terms of improving her mental well-being, because the rhythm of the spine and body play a dramatic role in how flexible the mind is and how it can start to move from positive thinking to negative thinking to positive thinking to negative, and it can start to fluctuate between those two, experiencing different emotions, having different thought patterns. And that's what she was really amazed at, is how her thinking patterns started to change. Well, that's the essence of how you start to change the mind through the body, is first you're able to hold yourself up nice and tall, but then at the same time, now you can have a free-flowing movement and rhythm that starts to get integrated into your nervous system. And as you do that, now your mental well-being shoots through the roof, because you become more adaptable as an entire organism, and it happens all at once, all at the same time. So that's the way that we do that. Now, an exercise that we actually do, I'll show you the exercise. One of the exercises we do to create more rhythm in the nervous system is we place our hands just in front of us like this, and you're sitting down, seated, and all you start to do is just circle the hands like this. And then you start to rock the pelvis. So the pelvis is moving in sync with my hands, and you're breathing in the mouth and out the mouth. And you do that for anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes, just to allow the rhythm of the body to take on something new. So the pelvis is rocking, the shoulders are rocking, the hands are rocking, and I'm breathing in the mouth and out the mouth, which is an alkalized way of breathing. It's also a breathing called merging breath, which sometimes brings up negative thinking. It brings up dark shadows within your unconscious, but it helps partly to strip away some of the binding unconscious patterns that lock up along the spine or along the tissues of the body. So that's a simple exercise that you do to start to work and alter with your breathing patterns, but also to move tissue of the body in a more rhythmic and dynamic way. And if you do that repetitiously, say daily, over the course of 7 to 14 to 21 days, you'll start to experience your body in a different way, and you'll also start to experience your mind in a different way. It doesn't mean it's all pleasurable, because you're going to have to work through some of the tensions, but as you do that, it's an exercise that can add a lot of depth to whatever your personal practices are, because it's forcing your nervous system to start to go in more of an adaptable type of mode. So that's an exercise that I wanted to review with you that you can do 2 to 3 minutes, a nice rhythmic exercise like that. Again, you can do it seating or lying down, but your pelvis is rhythmically moving, your shoulders and hands are rhythmically moving, and you're getting a nice, smooth movement through the spine. You relax the neck, the breath is in the mouth and out the mouth, and you're just almost just kind of waving and going along with a nice wave through the tissues of the spine and the body. Great little exercise to do, 2 to 3 minutes, really easy. In our Illumination Day, a one-day event that I hold, we do the first few hours is the movement practice that we're going to be implementing, which is 7 to 12 stages of the breath, depending on the group. And then the second half works a little bit more with the mind. So the first half of the day is working with the body and clearing more of that unconscious, getting you more flexible and releasing. And then also in the afternoon, we work with the mind, and we work with, now that you have more flexibility in your mind, we get to work exercises that allow you to interpret your reality, your environment, your stresses, your anxieties, whatever's ailing you, bothering you, or that you feel like you're not empowered around. We can start to put an empowered focus on that area and see how we can break through that. So that's what Illumination Day is about. Clearing the body, clearing the mind to new levels of illumination, new levels of light, new levels of vitality. So I hope this was helpful for you. Just as a quick review, remember, as tension builds in the unconscious, which your body is the unconscious, as tension builds there, there is a necessity and a need to do two things. One is to breathe differently. The second is to move differently, because both of those get compromised under high loads of stress. The third thing is to observe your posture and move your posture upwards. The fourth thing is to reverse that whole process through rhythmic breathing and moving, which will help the body inherently to become more flexible, help your mind to also simultaneously become more flexible, and you'll start the transformation process with an exercise like that. Rhythm, movement, breathing, all absolutely essential to your well-being. So hopefully you enjoyed this short clip, and if you're ready, Illumination Day awaits you. I look forward to seeing you there. If you can make it out, make it a priority. You're worth it. Have a wonderful day. Okay. Yeah, I just clicked. I'm not worrying about too much formality stuff, you know? Stop the webinar. Will you stop the broadcast?